Could you imagine if Brianna showed up and Claire is already hacking away at his leg, and she would just probably take that syringe and just like do behind her back, like, I'm Roger, just keep it to yourself. Hey guys, it's Marcia, and welcome to Really Seriously For Real, and welcome to my latest late post on Outlander. But I don't know, I mean, when you think about it, is it really late? You know, because technically I've been consecutively late, so they're right on time, or at least this one is. I'm just saying. Just go with me here. Well, let's talk about this episode. Actually, though, before we get too deep in, if you're here and maybe you've seen some of my other videos and maybe you're like, you know, let me check this girl out. So perhaps you may consider subscribing. If so, go ahead and click that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the bell so that way you're always notified when I upload a video. Now, this all starts out, you know, in the beginning of the episode, Jamie is pounding on the door of Brianna and Roger, and you know, shortly before they were in there trying to get their groove on, and now here comes Jamie banging on the door. But why is it that everyone insists on opening up the door before you're fully dressed? Okay, Jamie, he's pounding on the door. Just say, hey, hold on a second, we're trying to get dressed. No, they're sitting there trying to, you know, shove their clothes on, and Brianna is just wrapped in the bedding and opens the door. Now, if that's my dad, I'm gonna be fully clothed. I don't even like, everyone knows what happens in an adult's quarters, we'll say, but I don't know. I mean, I still want to go off of the profound ignorance that my parents have no clue whatsoever what's going on in my bedroom. So it was just really funny when Jamie kind of snaps into like, oh, when he sees that they're all still trying to get dressed when he walks in. But anyway, that was just a parental thing. Jamie, he's there because they were off, they, you know, saw some food roaming around that they want to hunt for. So he was actually there for Brianna and her shooting skills. No, not you, Roger. Sorry, sit down. Brianna says that, no, I want to dye some clothes blue, so you're gonna have to take my husband instead. Consolation prize. They join the whole group of men. So we got Fergus, we got Ian, we got the hunter guy, was it Josiah? And so they go off and they're hunting buffalo. Roger and Jamie, they part from the group. And so it's with the guys that, hey, listen, we're gonna separate, but we'll meet back at the ridge at dusk. But then Jamie gets bit by a snake when they separate. And so then Roger goes off to try to find everyone and can't. When Jamie was bit, Roger had surmised that this was probably a venomous snake. So he was gonna have to try to suck out the venom. And so it was interesting because Jamie, before Roger started cutting into him, Jamie's like, oh wait, I saw, you know, Claire always puts liquor on the knife. And so he puts liquor on the knife, but I'm like, well, how come you didn't put it on your leg too? Because you also want to make sure that the wound has something on it. Jamie, he is getting bad. The men, they had already went back to the ridge, and they realized that both Roger and Jamie weren't there. So this is my thing. If Jamie said that, hey, we're going to meet back at the ridge at dusk, but then he's not there with Roger, like, isn't the whole purpose of having a meetup that if you don't show up at that time, then that's kind of like, maybe there's a problem. So maybe we should go out looking for them. So I'm just saying, I just thought that was a little like, you know, because everybody's like, oh, well, maybe they just made camp. If he said he was going to meet at the ridge, I'm pretty sure he'll meet at the ridge. Because it's not like anyone had cell phones. During this time, Roger and Jamie, they have, you know, a really nice heart-to-heart, because Jamie realizes that things are getting pretty bad pretty fast. And so he's telling Roger that, hey, listen, Bonnet is actually still alive. Roger's like, yeah, we already know. But then Jamie proceeds to tell him that they have a little sting operation that they're gonna get Bonnet. Lord John already knows all the details, so if something happens to me, then I'm gonna need to make sure that you handle it, that you take care of Bonnet. He tells Jamie, if I am gonna do anything, then you need to be alive to teach me how to fight. So if you think I'm gonna go up to Bonnet without some lessons from you, then you got another thing coming. So I thought that was cute. And it was also funny when, okay, well, I don't know if it was intended to be funny. I find a lot of things funny. It was a serious subject, but I would never thought that Jamie was gonna die. I mean, it's Jamie. So there was never a point in me like, oh no, we're gonna lose this character. No, I never thought that. So I think probably the only thing that I thought is like, okay, maybe he might lose his leg, but I never thought he would lose his life. So in any case, with all that said, the reason why I'm going off on a tangent here is the fact that when Roger, he's like, please God, don't let this man lose his life. And I'm just thinking to myself like, is it because you don't want him to die? Or you don't want him to die and everyone blame you for his death? Because that would have been me like, oh, of course he sets out alone with Roger and something like this happens. So I would be asking God too, like, please let this man stay alive long enough for everyone to know it wasn't my fault. It was a snake. The next day, Ian, he sees, I guess one of the horses came back. And so he uses that. He realizes that that there must be something wrong. So they go off searching for them, and then they find Roger, pulling Jamie on like a stretcher, trying to drag him through the forest. And they get him back to Claire. Claire's looking at him like, oh my goodness, this is not good. She knows that there's very limited options here because she lost her penicillin after it was stomped on by the Browns. It's pretty dire at this point. So she asks everyone to go out, or actually I should say Marceline. Marceline really steps in to, help and ground Claire. Like, listen, I know that you think that things are looking like it's just crazy and it's just not going to work, but I got you. All right, I got you. What do you need me to do? Let's just take things one thing at a time. I just love that. And it just kind of harkens back to earlier in the episode when Claire was looking over Marcelly and just like, okay, the baby's looking good. It's in the right position. You could deliver this baby all on your own. And then Marcelly tells her, like, listen, I'm so glad that you're going to be here, not just as, the doctor, but as my mom. It was just, I loved that moment because I love the fact that despite everything, despite like the awkward way that they had to meet, and just how they all just kind of came together, they managed to find a wonderful, warm, and loving relationship between the two of them, a mother-daughter relationship. And ironically, they have so much more in common than even her and Brianna, just as far as medical knowledge is concerned. So I just thought that was just such a beautiful moment that fit very well with the rest of the story, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So she tells Marcelly, like, listen, find some maggots. Find some maggots so at least we can keep the wound clean. So she has the whole ridge, everybody out there, leaving no stone unturned, trying to find some maggots. And so they do. She starts applying it to Jamie, and Jamie is looking real high. But he's looking at Roger, and he's like, that Roger Mac. And, I just loved it because I love little nickname, type things. But now there is a point where things were not all rosy and everything, because Jamie, he notices that there is a saw on the table. And so he knows exactly what that means. And so there's a point where he's like, he takes the saw and he's telling, there's like a bee buzzing around the house. Like all the bees are out now. And, as much as I love a good thing of honey, I don't like bees, and especially when they're buzzing around the house. But anyway, he takes the saw and he's telling Claire, like, you're not going to take my leg. I don't care what happens, but, you know, if it means me dying or me losing a leg, just let me keep my leg. I want to be whole, whatever. So Claire, there's definitely that moment of like, you know, what do I do? There was so much going on in this episode. It was just rich with detail and a lot of drama. Now there's a point where Jamie asks Roger to take him, you know, out of the little hospital area and take him back to his bed. He wants to be in his bed. And so reluctantly, Roger takes him there, and Ian ends up helping him and was like, are you sure this is a good idea? Because I don't know if Auntie Claire is going to like this one. And I'm sure Roger is just like, who would I rather be in trouble with? Claire, which I already have a good relationship with, or Jamie, which I'm just now starting to have a little relationship with. I'm like, I think I'll take Jamie. So they end up taking him to the bed. So then Jamie is talking about the fact that, you know, I don't want my leg. I don't want them to take my leg. And so it's just this whole thing, right? So then Ian is just like, well, you know, what's wrong with that? Because my dad doesn't have his leg. Fergus doesn't have his arm. And so he just unloads on Jamie. It was like a real nail in the heart, you know, like, ooh, wow, some words there, right? For Jamie, he knows what's coming. So of course, it's, you know, you're scared. You're super scared of the unknown. And when this is something that you have, of course, you don't want to lose it. It was tough to hear Ian go after Jamie like that. But at the same time, I understood how he felt, and I understood how that whole circumstance would develop into that, which made his dialogue between Fergus later on so wonderful. Because listen, let's face it, they very rarely seem to give Fergus anything nowadays. He's just, you know, in the background, just another character. And every so often they throw him a line. First off, just the ease of his delivery of his lines between Ian, and just telling Ian, like, listen, sometimes you just have to be there for someone. Sometimes it's not about how you may think, you know, someone should feel. Sometimes you just need to understand that someone is in distress, and that they, you know, they're allowed to feel a certain way, or they're allowed to unload, etc., etc. But it was a really nice, I say that too much. I need another word instead of nice. But it was just a fantastic way to, number one, give Fergus some relevant, thoughtful dialogue, and also too, it's like a teachable moment for Ian as well. Claire, she comes in and she's just like, what the heck is going on? Because now she finds that Jamie has been moved. Roger, he was still in the room, and so he's like, I think I'll be going now. Exit stage, right? I'm out of here. Claire was probably just like, first of all, I don't want those damn maggots wiggling around in the bed. You stay your behind back in the hospital. So that night, he was in distress, and Claire gets up, and he's like, I'm cold. And so he's just, you know, kind of tells her, if anything happens, you know, just touch me. And so that's what happens. He ends up drifting off, his eyes closed. And so she's like trying to get him to wake up. She takes off her gown, puts her naked body over his, and, you know, just kind of like rubs up against him. And, you know, I guess I thought that she was trying to warm his body. And then, yes, you know, finally it was like, oh, he takes a breath and he comes back, and he explains that, you know, he was kind of like at a door. All he had to do was just walk through, but he wasn't going to. Jamie, he ultimately says that, you know what, fine, take my leg if you have to. So the next day she's preparing to take his leg at the cabin. Roger had kept the snake head that bit him. So Brianna uses the fang in order to make a syringe. So she shows up just before everything gets started and is like, Eureka, I found a way for you to inject penicillin into Dia. So that's what Claire does. And so it's just a pretty cool moment. Except, anyone else think that maybe Brianna should have sent Roger ahead? Like, hey, Claire, listen, Brianna's working on something, so just stop everything, or, whatever. Because could you imagine if Brianna showed up and Claire is already hacking away at his leg, and she would just probably take that syringe and just like, do behind her back, like, Roger, just keep it to yourself. All right, yeah, so yeah, there was a lot of stuff that went on in this episode. And and also too, Marcelly, she does end up giving birth, and she basically, she handles the whole birth on her own because she was in the woods with Fergus and the kids. And there was no time to get back to Claire. And besides, Claire had her hands full anyway. This is a great episode, actually, because number one, the idea that you have all these relationships where you kind of needed to close up all these loose ends, namely Marcelly and Claire. The fact that they have their closure, where, they start out as enemies, and now here they are in this mother-daughter, bond almost. And then you have Jamie and Roger finally finding some common ground between each other, and an understanding between each other. And, no time sooner than the present, because you need to have all these bonds tied up so that way you can face your biggest enemy as one cohesive unit. Then you also have Ian and Jamie. The fact that Ian was able to unload and get everything off his chest on how he felt, maybe that was absolutely necessary. And so then again, it led to a nice moment between him and Fergus to kind of understand each other and understand what it is to have that father-son relationship, and just things that Ian needs to understand as a child. There's just so much noise going on. I don't even know if the mic picks it up, but if you hear anything, sorry. Oh man, I totally forgot about the buffalo. Okay, so that was the other thing. So the buffalo ends up meandering its way onto the Ridge property, right? And so, that's hilarious to me, because it's basically the dinner just came to you. But even more so, the fact that Claire is the one that shot it. All these men out there trying to get this buffalo, and it's Claire who was able to shoot and kill a moving target. So not bad. Brianna, she's just like, over here. And this thing starts chasing after her. But then it hits her. It knocks her into the air. And it looks like it hit pretty hard. And then she comes down to the ground. After seeing a lot of these real life incidents with buffalo, I'm like, dang, would she really have just popped up and, no issue? And all right, so I've been talking too long. Let me tie this review on up. Let me ask you guys, what did you think was the most interesting part of the episode? And did you ever think that Jamie was actually in any peril? They have altered the story, and they can alter the story. Did you ever think that something would happen to Jamie? Let me know in the comments down below. All right, guys. So thank you so very much for watching. Until next time. Bye.